Welcome by another Stardock session. Stardock is a fast-growing co-working space in the city center of Rotterdam and Amsterdam. And together with my events team, Johan and Roos, we organize online events for our communities. You're now watching to a CEO talk, and today I have Lex Geerdes as a guest. I ask him some questions about his career and his vision on certain things. And I think, first of all, you can introduce yourself a bit more.
Yeah, thank you, Britt, and great to be here again, I would say, at Stardock in the beautiful building in the center of Amsterdam, like the building in Rotterdam and the other building in Amsterdam, really great places to be always. The first 30 years of my working life I spent in the insurance business, did a lot of things at a company that initially was called Langerveld, that was acquired by Aeon. Which still exists and is still active in the Netherlands and many other countries. And the last 4 years of my professional life, I do a mixture of investing in startups and scale-ups, and I have about half a dozen of non-executive board positions, advisory board positions. So that's in short what I did professionally. Before that, I studied economics in Rotterdam at the Erasmus University, and before that I grew up in the beautiful village of Apeldoorn in the center of the Netherlands, where I went to school and did all those kind of things. We'll come back to that later on. It was also, of course, at that age that I had my first exposure to live music and rock bands. So that, I guess, is in short the professional and education part. I live in Rotterdam together with my wife Wiegert Groenveld, and we have 2 kids. One studying in business administration, and Lucas, and our daughter Daphne just finished high school and now doing a gap year. I enjoy sports. I'm a pretty active runner, and I'm also a big football fan, supporting Ajax already for over 50 years.
Living in Rotterdam and supporting Ajax.
I sometimes get that question. And on the personal side, in my leisure time, I enjoy modern art and classic cars. I'll come back to that later as well, probably in our CEO talk.
Okay, well, yeah, Lex, like you already said, is a former CEO of AON and now has his own company. You also have a great connection with our company, Stardock. But before we are going to talk about that, maybe you can tell me a bit more of how you started your career.
Yeah, thank you, Britt. When I was in university, and getting to the end of my studies, I said to myself, what would I like to do? I enjoyed, international business. I enjoyed financial services. So I was looking at the time, for a position in a company that would be large enough for me to perhaps go international, but also small enough, not to be a number, on the list in a computer about what the next step would be in your career. So I chose carefully, the type of company I joined, and that was then, as I told you, Langerveld. Great company to work for. I quickly got some responsibilities, which was great. Was able to make a few mistakes, learn from them, and get to new roles and new jobs within the company. And just to explain, Aeon is an insurance broker consultant. So if you, as a consumer or as a corporate, have insurance questions, Aeon, as an intermediary, will work with you to define exactly what you need, and then go to insurance companies, entrepreneurial Nederland, Aeon, Zurich, Allianz, and others, to make sure that you get the right coverage for the type of insurance that you need. Dynamic business, international business. So that's how I started. Make sure you get to know the business. That you work hard. I did that for quite a few years. I sometimes jokingly tell to people, I've worked hard for 30 years, and then Wiegert said, well, Lex, the first 1 or 2 years were okay. But it's if you are, a leader, a CEO in a large corporate, like an entrepreneur, you have to work hard and do a lot of, do a lot of stuff.
Did you always wanted to start a job at Aeon?
Well, like I told you, I carefully selected, I think, the type of company that I felt would fit me best. Other people, when I graduated, friends of mine, went to larger corporations. But I sometimes had the feeling, that if the company is very large, you have less of an influence or an impact on your own career. There's a list, every year, Brit, you go and do this, Lex, you go and do that. I'm sorry. But I like to, be a bit more in charge of my own, career and steps. And the company was big enough. That's a good thing, for me to go abroad. I'll come back to that in a minute. But also to advance and to really have a terrific time. 30 years, 30 years, which is, especially in today's age, quite a nice,
quite a long time.
Yes, indeed, Britt.
And well, you started at Aeon. What kind of function did you have back then?
I'm sorry?
Did you always dreamed of being a CEO? I can imagine you didn't start.
No, not in the beginning. First I wanted to learn the business. I did have the ambition, together with Wiegert, to perhaps go abroad when the opportunity would come up, and that actually happened, quite quick, because I had only joined Hudig Langeveld, 2 or 3 years when I got the question if I would want to go to the US. So I went abroad to Atlanta, Georgia, one of the battle states, also in the US elections. The last couple of weeks, which was great because you enhance your experience, you get exposure to another country, another business culture, so that was really a great experience. And after that, we were lucky, to again get the opportunity to go to another country, to France. So we also lived in Paris for 5 years. Another culture, another country, another business environment, and that international experience. Really, was very rewarding for me. I enjoyed it a lot. I think it gave me, adaptability, gave me a perspective on how you can do things, and I was able to use the knowledge I got abroad. When I came back to the Netherlands in 1997, and really, the ability to have that international element, for me was great. And of course, you still use that every day. Because especially in a small country like the Netherlands, business is international, so that was what it. But I didn't. So to do something international, was great. Then when I came back to the Netherlands to continue to work for Aeon, I wanted to have some responsibilities. I was very lucky to be asked to become the chief commercial officer on the board at that time. But I did not dream of becoming the CEO. When I did in 2006, become the CEO of Aeon in the Netherlands, there was a dream come true, really. Fantastic to join a company, 20 years earlier, and then to have, the confidence of the group, to become the CEO. And at that point, many people, who grew up within the company like me, found that terrific because it shows. And the same happened when I left 4 years ago. Somebody who had also been there for quite a long time became the CEO, and that was good because when I was appointed CEO, I was the first appoint in the Netherlands. I think in 5 or 6 appointments that came from within the company. So that was a good thing, I think.
It was a good growth path.
But so I enjoyed it, of course, and all the time. I did the role, but I did not, started the company thinking I would do that. Some people may have thought it was more or less not a complete surprise, because when I went abroad, one day I came back to my desk and there was a small piece of green, carpet laying under my chair at the desk that I had at the time. Okay. And the green carpet was also the carpet of the floor in the building where the management board was situated. So, the joke was when you had to, go to the board to do something, you had to go to the green carpet. So some colleagues, when I went abroad, thought maybe this guy will come back. If he doesn't mess up too much, and he will be on the green carpet himself. When I came back and I was member of the board, there was no green carpet anymore.
Too bad.
But it was a good, good prediction, Britt.
All right. So a lot of journeys abroad, and then you came back and became CEO. That's the...
Yeah, I came back and I first became CCO, and then I became CEO 8 or 9 years later. Of the company in the Netherlands. Yeah, correct.
All right. And if you describe your job as a CEO, what's the most important aspect?
Yeah, that's a good question, Britt. You need to, of course, build a strong team of people, around you that understand, what the company wants and what the strategy is. Make sure you basically build a strong team. I think that's the key thing to do when you're a CEO. Growing up in the business, within the company, I think I had a pretty good understanding of how the business works. So I also made sure I would talk to clients, I would talk to suppliers, to make sure, that as a company you do the right thing. Of course, you can look at papers and at spreadsheets, but it's key in the market that you're active, that you also, are involved in the business, that you're an ambassador for the company that you work for. I also try to be, we'll talk about that later, but an ambassador for the startups, that we're involved in, and also of the companies that I'm a non-executive board member of. In addition to that, you have to make sure that you make a compelling strategy, a compelling vision for the company, and that you involve, your team to build it, but also that you make sure that you communicate it clearly, so that everybody from Groningen to Maastricht, from Noordwijk to Hengelo, understands what the company wants, understands where the company is going, and that as a team within the company, you move in one direction. So to me, that's very important. And I'll give you an anecdote. When I later on, I also was involved, and I was responsible for other countries outside the Netherlands within Aeon, and really to show, I would say, the commitment and the connection with the people involved. When I was appointed, in addition to the Netherlands, CEO of Central and Eastern Europe, I got 11, 12 countries, from the Baltics to Romania, and from Poland to Russia. Those countries were new to me, those people were new to me. So what I did to show my interest, but also to get to know the people, and to be sure that they understand, where we're going and what the plan is. I bought a young timer Range Rover, a big car, that was driven by a few students to the most northern country of that region, which was Estonia, the village of Tallinn. I flew there and I drove in one day from Tallinn to Latvia with the manager of the Aeon country, Estonia, to the next country. We spoke all day in the car. And then you really get to know the people, you really are able, to connect. And I think that was great. Then we had dinner. The person from Tallinn went back, and with the person from Riga in Latvia, I drove to Lithuania. The same. And we did it for 11 days, 11 countries. And that was really a great way, to know the people,
to really
get to
know
that part of the world. I also got many surprises because I thought, it would be much more different than it was. They had the same brands, they had the same, petrol stations, the same shops, at least to some extent. I also thought it would be quite adventurous, but there was no hijacking, no bribing, no kidnapping. There was nothing happened. It was very civil and safe all the time. And then people said, well, Lex, but you had somebody from the local country with you all the time. Which is true, but of course, if you drive in a big, Range Rover with a Dutch license plate, the person potentially wanting to do something doesn't know whether you're, So those countries and those economies are much closer to, to where we are, which is what I found out.
Yeah.
And it was easy to connect with those people. I think that was a good start, of that period in my career as well.
All right, and you already said that managing and building a team is one of the most important aspects.
Yeah.
Do you have any short tips and tricks?
Yeah, so spend time with the people that you work with. Of course, today with the contact limitations, that's not always easy. What I sometimes do even today is, go out and have a walk with somebody. Somebody a couple of weeks ago wanted some career advice. I said, come to my house, when we'll make a nice walk in Rotterdam. So we walked for an hour, and that was good. And what I sometimes have experienced is when you have a doubt about a member in your team, because the member the person is not fit for the job or maybe not happy. I sometimes took too long to react, and in all those cases where I ask people, to change jobs or even to leave the company, which are big decisions and not easy to make, but always it turned out well, both for the person and for the company. And I think in some cases, I could have done that quicker. So make sure that you get the right team on board, and if that doesn't work, take action, and make sure that both for the people themselves and for the team, you don't wait too long to take action.
Yeah. So that's something you did pretty well, and then when you do something pretty well, I'm going to ask you, what was your biggest fuck up as a CEO?
Well, like I said a few minutes ago, I think in some cases I waited too long to take action. So it's something I recommend people to do, but I didn't always do too well. And perhaps in one or two, changes of strategy, I could have spent more time, or I should have spent more time explaining to people, why we change strategy, why we implement this or that measure. So communicate even more clearly and more intensely about the direction the company wants to go. Those are a few things that I think I could have done better. And
now you started your own company after this job.
So together with Wiegertje, we started GGP, an investment company specializing in supporting as an active angel investor, young, ambitious companies and startups. Yeah, indeed.
Yeah, and is that something you always wanted to do?
It is something that a few years before we started doing that, that we wanted to do. Actually, it's interesting because it started not far from here. With our family of four, we were vacationing in Amsterdam. We rented a nice apartment on the Amstel River with the four of us, and we did a week of tourists in our own country. Today very modern, but 6-7 years ago we also did that. And we met a young entrepreneur who had a urban food and fresh juice bar around the corner from where we stayed. We got friends with him, and that's when we, for the first time, thought it would be great, to use a bit of money, but also network, advice, knowledge to support young entrepreneurs. So that's how it all started, Britt.
Yeah, but before we're going to talk further on that topic, you also sent me two short videos.
Yeah.
I think we're going to watch it right now.
Great, and I'll comment on that later, Britt.
Perfect, thanks.
So the first video that you saw was a shot of the Vierdaagse of Nijmegen. To really, celebrate the shift of corporate life to entrepreneurial life, I decided after I stopped at Aeon, but before really taking on the new adventures, to do a couple of things. I did the Nijmegen Vierdaagse, a traditional, very long 4-day march that started as a military march, but that's also done by civilians. This was the 100th time I still can feel, the blisters on my feet. I also did a classic car rally, the Tulpen Rally. I went on a fascinating trip to the US elections with a group of people in 2016. I did a non-executive board member course, and I did a trip to Silicon Valley. So really quite a few things, to kind of mark the change, to also get new knowledge, new experiences. So that's the first video about that. And also the second shot was Golden Earring, one of my favorite Dutch rock bands, and Radar Love is actually the first song or the first band, Golden Earring, that I ever saw live.
I saw them also live. My father took me sometime.
There you go.
Nice.
Well, that shows how old the band is. Actually, the good news is, Britt, that all the players in the band, are older than me. So there's a great future, also as a new entrepreneur.
And they are still young, right?
They are still young, Britt. Absolutely, absolutely. So and then also, switching gears. Like I told you, I'm a bit of an automotive fan as well. And when you're the CEO, you're always at the steering wheel, in the driver's seat. Turn right, turn left. And you have to make sure that the rest of the car or the bus is following. As an angel investor, it's the founders of the startup. They're holding the steering wheel. As an angel investor, you give them advice, you talk to them. But at the end of the day, they decide where to go. Same goes when you're a non-executive board member. Whether it's for a profit or a non-profit, there, you also sit, next to the people who run the charity or who run the company that you're on the board of. And I enjoy that. 30 years of being an executive is good, is a long time, but I enjoy the new, stage in my life where, together with Wiegertje and others, we work in a different capacity, but still very much entrepreneurial. Yeah. The good thing is, I have more variety in my life. It's not one company, but it's of course many different companies that we are involved in, and we have, I think we have impact in a different way, but with the knowledge, experience, that you get in 30 years, you can help, entrepreneurs.
That makes it valuable.
I think it makes it valuable. Yeah. That's what I think is happening. You learn things, you know how things work, you have a network of people or connections in corporations. You've made mistakes, I won't tell you too many, but I've made a few, and if you can help other entrepreneurs, in business, you more or less understand to do well and to learn from those mistakes that you made, then it's quite rewarding as well.
You're also helping startup with this, but I'm also very curious how you discover new companies to invest in and to help them. And
that's Britt. In the beginning, 4 years ago, we started going to startup events, Amsterdam Capital Week, Rotterdam Capital Week, Yes Delft, alumni networks, Venture Cafe. So those are all places where you can meet startups. We are also a member of one or two startup communities built by banks or others. Now that we have about 10 portfolio of about 10 startups that we're involved in as an investor, as an angel investor, people start finding us, and every week we get one or two, sometimes even more proposals, or people call us. In addition to that, most startups that we're involved in, we are not the only angel investor. Sometimes there's 2 or 3 or 4. So through that you get a network of other people who do similar things, and sometimes we get approached by a startup. It doesn't exactly fit our taste, so we give it to somebody else. Sometimes other investors pass things through to us. Yeah. So I would say we get more than one new idea or proposal every week. So that's kind of cool.
And what kind of requirements must a company meet before you decide to invest in them or to help them?
I would say there's 3 things that we focus on. Britt, the click with the entrepreneur is key. Yeah. Of course, because you want high energy, good people to run those businesses. But also, like I said, we like to be, active angel investors. So the entrepreneurs also need to at least listen to what we say. They don't have to do what we say all the time, but they have to listen to what we say. So, the quality of the entrepreneurs is key. Also, the type of business, that the startup does is important to us. Do we understand at least a bit of what the business is, and can we add something to that business? And of course, financially has to be an attractive proposition as well.
Yeah.
The tough one with that is that a startup, making plans and doing spreadsheets, you can show terrific numbers. Sometimes, they are a bit
Too terrific.
very ambitious. But throughout the years, I think we can more or less get a feel for what's realistic and what's not. So, the one thing the predictions is never what it becomes. So quality of the entrepreneurs, a business plan where we can add something, and of course economically, financially, a promising proposition.
Company,
that's what we find important.
And you already said that the company itself is important to you, that you know a bit what they are going to do.
Yeah.
But what kind of companies do you like? What kind of?
So we like things that are scalable, things that are marketplaces, but we also like I brought one example. We are also a shareholder in Fat and Lazy Beer, small commercial here on the side. And there it's all about sales and marketing. It's about positioning. So the startups are not in the insurance or the pension scheme. Of course, that's something that I know quite well. But we look at other things. Stardock, a company that we're involved in, we like the business model. We like the entrepreneurs clearly. And we're also active, Wiegertje and myself, as ambassadors, and Wiegertje as partnership manager. So that's some of the things we do. Our son initially studied biopharmaceutical science, so we thought, well, let's do some biotech as well. But we quickly found out, that is tough business. You need millions to do something, and also it takes 5, 10, 15 years. He since switched to business. There's business administration, which of course is broadly, you can use that broadly in the business life. So that's a sector that we don't really, invest in, and things, manufacturing is also not really our thing. So we're not one sector investors. The criteria that I just mentioned: entrepreneur, a business we understand, and of course a good financial model are the things that we look for. Obviously, we say no more often than we say yes. Yep. But sometimes, if it doesn't fit our needs, we connect people, founders, with other startups. With other investors, and that works out quite well for them as well. So that's how we work. That's clear. Clear story. Yeah.
And what kind of growth phases do you see in an investment?
Every startup starts with an idea, starts with a concept, a few founders, to really get the first 10 or 20,000 of revenues on the books every month, to get regular clients, the famous MRR, the monthly recurring revenues, to get from 0 to 10 or 20 is very key. That's an important phase. And then going abroad. We now have in our portfolio a few companies that are looking at going abroad. That's again a very exciting phase. Yep. More difficult. The Netherlands is a small country, so you can more or less manage from one location. But even if you go to France or to Germany or to the UK,
it's a totally different market.
A bit less easy perhaps with Brexit, but let's say Germany or France, you still have to, you don't know the people so well, you don't know the environment so well. So I would say, getting the first tens of thousands of revenues on the books and then going internationally would be two phases that are important and exciting for entrepreneurs a bit.
Okay. You already mentioned also that you made a few mistakes with this company you have now, but what's here the biggest mistake that you've made?
Well, you have to really make sure that the entrepreneurs that you work with, are open to your advice and to your suggestions, So that's one thing that we did. And in addition to that, you have to spread your portfolio. So that's something that we also do. If you have a portfolio of companies that you're involved in, then that works quite well. So those will be a few things that we would do differently before we start again. So,
okay.
And like I said, focus on things that you understand, and doing a biotech with a range of 10 or 20 years, perhaps is for a different type or a different group of investors than ourselves.
And then do you have any investments that you really regret?
Not yet. And my wife is very wise. So when one of the investments sometimes goes a little bit less good than what we would like, we learn from it. We've certainly learned from being angel investors for the past 4 years.
Yeah.
So our due diligence and our knowledge about where to invest and where not to invest, I think, have improved. So I would say that today we are a bit more selective than we were, 4 years ago.
Yeah.
But overall, we're happy with the performance of our fund until now. We've had one exit, a successful exit until now. We also, and that to me is very important, we enjoy doing that. We enjoy the business. Our son and also our daughter Daphne are starting to get involved as well.
Yeah.
So that's really cool, that you have a family business of your own. And even though it's indirect, investing because you support entrepreneurs, you can also consider GGP an investment fund by itself and a company by itself, which of course it is. And it's really lots of fun and energy that we get from doing that. So that's I can recommend it to you or to people in a similar situation. And I must be honest, sometimes people say, Lex, would you have done this 10 or 20 years ago? Probably not, because at least I needed the time to know the business world, to get a network that I got at Aeon, also of course to earn some money that you can then invest. So the timing I think was good. 20 years ago or even 15 or 10 years ago, we wouldn't do that. And I'm glad we started 4 years ago, because the good thing is, we have the energy,
the time was right,
the health and the age to do this, hopefully for many more years to come. Which is important because the startups that we're involved in, they need time and years to do well. There's milestones. One of the startups, got over the bar of 1 million annual recurring revenues. That was great to celebrate. Other startups, like I said, are going abroad. That's great to celebrate.
Yeah.
The beer company, when they for the first time were in a big retail store, Jumbo or Heineken, those were...
that was a big celebration also. Albert Heijn.
Mistake, Albert Heijn. Those are big things that you celebrate.
Yeah.
So that's really fun to work with people and also celebrate the success that you have together.
All right. Hey, according to the time, I have one last question actually. Do you have any tips or tricks for dockers when they are looking for an investor? How could they do it in the best way? Yeah,
so we know quite a few dockers, and many of them have great companies and really good ideas. I would say if you have the option, go for what I would call smart money. That an investor that you work with doesn't only bring a few euros, but also helps you with his or her experience, with knowledge, with network. So if you're able to find smart money, please choose it. I think that will bring the company even further than just some funding.
Just money.
If you can use the advice, the network, the knowledge of experienced entrepreneurs and business people.
Well, I think that was a nice way to wrap it up. Thank you very much.
Thanks for the invite. I enjoyed it. Great to be here again at Stardock in Amsterdam.
Thank you.
Talk to you soon.
Also want to thank the people who viewed the lovely talk we had. Hopefully if you've learned something from it and you enjoyed it, you can leave your feedback on our socials or on our website. And please let us know what you think about it. And don't forget to follow us as well. And hopefully we'll see you soon. And thanks again.
Bye-bye.